right, let's jump into Chapter 1, an overview of U.S. healthcare delivery. I have the book in my hand, and I'm just going to do a brief overview of this chapter. The PowerPoint is rather large. Just review this information. When we read a textbook, I don't recommend reading it word for word. I recommend, or I have a habit, I guess, of skimming it, and when I reach a topic or a concept that I'm not familiar with, then I'll stop and read it word for word. You guys can YouTube and Google different reading techniques, but certainly you're welcome to read these chapters word for word, highlight, take notes, etc. But sometimes just skimming is adequate if you have any prior knowledge of this information. Anyway, Chapter 1, page 2, Introduction. This chapter is going to review how we compare. No, that's not what I want to say. This chapter is going to start out talking about how we are different than other countries. We probably have the most advancements, we're not the most populated, but we are definitely, I would say, most expensive, and our outcomes are not necessarily better than other countries. But anyway, other countries, their citizens are entitled to free healthcare. The United States that's not the case. You're not automatically covered by insurance in the United States. You have to purchase it or get it from an employer. Describing healthcare delivery in the United States can be a daunting task. It's very much like a kaleidoscope. It's not a simple process. It's multifaceted. Many things impact our healthcare delivery in this country. The page continues to go into an overview of the size and scope of the system. I did find it interesting that, and this is old data from like 2015, 16, 17, that how many medical schools are in the country compared to how many nursing schools. There's 180 medical schools, 66 dental schools, 136 pharmacy schools, but there's 1,500 nursing programs throughout the country. So that definitely in healthcare, I would say there's more nurses than any other profession. Page 4, broad description of the system. U.S. healthcare delivery does not function as a rational and integrated network. I'm just reading straight from the book. Then it continues to go to the next page. Basic components of healthcare. There's 4 functional components within that. Financing, insurance, delivery, payment. What do I want to say about that? So payment function deals with reimbursement, which that makes sense. If you're reimbursed, you're getting paid. Insurance and healthcare reform. So on page 7 is constant, the reform and the updates and the changes in our healthcare industry. If you worked as a medical office manager or medical coder, nurse, doctor, a practitioner, billing 10 years ago, it's very different than what it is right now. And we'll get into that more. Most changes are for the better. Some changes we just scratch our heads like, wait, what? But every change, every modification is for a better outcome. There is a good purpose behind it. Page 8 still is talking about the healthcare reform. Universal coverage became a thing. Page 9, role of managed care. So managed care is a system of healthcare delivery that seeks to achieve efficiency, integrating the 4 functions of healthcare. It also employs mechanisms to control utilization of medical services and determines prices. There's value to managed care. There's also limitations to managed care. Page 10, major characteristics of the U.S. system. They are listed there. I am not going to read that to you. One key thing from page 11, there's no central agency that manages, if you will, the U.S. healthcare system. We have too many pieces of the puzzle. I'm flipping my page. Page 12, the imperfect market. This talks a lot about the free market. Free market patients are the buyers, and providers are the sellers, and they act independently. So they don't, they do rely on each other, but they're very independent. So as a patient in a free market, I can choose what doctor to go to. I can choose there's some different flexibility there. And in Figure 1.3, under the note section, under free market conditions, there is an inverse relationship between the quantity of medical services demanded and the price of medical services. So be sure to read over that and make sure that makes sense to you moving forward. Page 14, moral hazard is when someone has health insurance and they go to the doctors more often because they have that health insurance, where they would not have sought out that medical care without the insurance. That is very true. In the medical field, you'll see that often. Again, I'll repeat that. It's when someone does have health insurance, they will go to the doctor for a sinus infection, colds, hurt knee, compared to someone who does not have health insurance. And that is a moral hazard. We still want people without health insurance to come and get medical care. So that's one of the downfalls of our system. If they don't have insurance, they're not seeking medical care because it's so expensive. Okay, moving forward, page 15. Let me go back to the bottom of page 14. Third-party insurance and payers, multiple payers. So national healthcare system is sometimes referred as a single payer system because there's one primary payer, the government, when it's referring to that. Balancing power on the bottom of page 15. Litigation risk on the bottom of page 16. So this is something that managed care has tried to eliminate, but oftentimes practitioners, doctors, nurse practitioners, whoever's ordering medical tests, medicines, etc., they'll order extra just to keep them from getting sued. And that's not necessarily the right thing to do, but we understand why these practitioners do that. So managed care, one of the functions of that has been to say, okay, when someone comes in for a knee, you do this, this, and this, and no more. But then that takes away the practitioner's freedom and flexibility to say, actually, I want to do an extra blood test, or I want to do an extra x-ray because I might think it's something different. So it's always going back and forth. But defensive medicine is definitely something that occurs. Okay, flipping the pages. Page 18 and 19 talks about trends and directions, where we're heading. 19, significance of healthcare practitioners. 20 talks about managing, capturing new markets, complying with regulations. That's very important if you are a manager in healthcare. I'm flipping over to page 22. Now, this is great information to review. Starts with the healthcare system of other countries on page 22. And the other countries are listed. I'm not going to read those out loud, but you guys can review that. It's rather neat information. Now, some of these dates are old because it takes time to collect this data. Then it takes time for books to get published, etc. So I'm sure most of these numbers are very different now. Then on page 33, it talks about developing countries, global health challenges and reform, systems framework, the bottom of page 34, foundation system resources. Review this. This is not something that you have to know this week. We're gonna build upon these system processes, outcomes, and outlook as we go through this textbook. So that's it for chapter 1. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you need any clarification.